Hello, my name is Jeff Farbman from the Wallace Center at Winrock International. Welcome to this webinar, the second in a series of webinar trainings for farmer support organizations who work with small-scale farmers. This series is a partnership between the Agriculture and Land-Based Training Center, ALBA, and the National Good Food Network, and is funded by a grant from Western SARE. This second webinar here, Water Requirements, FSMA and GAP, FSMA is a Food Safety Modernization Act, will be presented by Kathy Carlson, a private consultant for on-farm food safety programs of all sizes. She brings to farmers a diverse background of program management, regulatory experience, and sustainable farming. She has spent the past few years working as a quality assurance and food safety manager for the fresh cut produce industry in the Central Coast area. Prior to that, she worked for state and federal agencies as a policy regulator and agriculture research aide. Her experience with preparing farm and facility food safety programs with audit agencies such as USDA, LGMA, Primus GFS, and Global GAP have helped her to assist and advise farmers and facilities with the requirements of buyers and the Food Safety Modernization Act. She's also a farmer, and you can visit her website at Las Lomas Lavender and Honey. So I'm going to ask Kathy to introduce ALBA and the webinar series, and then I'll speak just a little bit about the Wallace Center and the National Good Food Network.
Thank you, Jeff. Can you hear me okay?
I can.
Excellent. Well, thank you everyone for joining us today. ALBA is a agriculture land-based training center in Salinas. I've had the opportunity and privilege of working with them for the past several years. Their objective is to strengthen capacities of professional working and small-scale farmers on food safety compliance and counsel them on adoption of the appropriate food safety options and certification.
Great.
Let's see. Now I have command, right? And I can move forward.
Well, let me talk about the Wallace Center, which is a business unit of Winrock International and is the host of these webinars. The Wallace Center has been a leading organization in the movement for a more sustainable and equitable food system for over 30 years. Today, the center supports entrepreneurs and communities as they build a new 21st century food system that is healthier for people, the environment, and the economy. The center serves the growing community of civic, business, and philanthropic organizations involved in building a new good food system in the United States. In particular, we're focused on advancing regional, collaborative efforts around the country to move good food, healthy, green, fair, affordable food beyond the direct marketing realm into the larger scale wholesale channels. The National Good Food Network, or NGFN, is an initiative of the Wallace Center. Structured as a network of networks, it ensures an efficient flow of information and innovation from boots on the ground projects to the national level and back down to the grassroots level across the nation. The Wallace Center coordinates and supports the network. Our goals are to work with growers to ensure that there is an abundant supply of good food to meet the high consumer demand for the product, to collect and disseminate the best models, stories, methods, and outcomes, and to ensure that policymakers are informed about the wonderful successes our network and partners have had so that we can continue to increase support for regional healthy food. You can learn more about the great work of the National Good Food Network on our website, right there at the bottom, ngfn.org. So let me give you a quick technical introduction so you can interact with me and with Kathy. On your screen, you have the presentation on the left, and you should have a control panel on your right. If you don't, it may be that the control panel is collapsed to the far right of your screen. If you click that orange arrow button, it'll expand, and then if you select in the View menu, auto hide the control panel, remove the check, your control panel will stop hiding itself, which is good because that's where you interact with us. There's a questions box and you can write in your question there. And then after the formal presentation, we'll have a question and answer section. But please do write in your question when they occur to you, so that if I need to interrupt Kathy, I can, and so that you're not thinking, you don't forget your question, really. We are recording this webinar, so you can always review. All of our webinars are archived on ngfn.org/webinars. And there is a post-webinar survey that asks you a few questions about the quality of the webinar, how valuable it was to you, as well as allows you to request some services from us. Okay, enough introduction. Let me ask Kathy to now dig into the meat of the presentation. You should have control, and there we go.
Yeah, there we go. Excellent. Thank you so much, Jeff. Much appreciate your assistance here. So this webinar is going to just skim the surface of, and I want to stress that point, this is just going to skim the surfaces of the water requirements, no pun intended, but that works too. And the reason why is because FSMA has not released the tools that they had told us that they will be presenting to us. So I will just be going over the basics. Each farm is its own ecosystem, therefore it's going to have its own unique, not only food safety plan, but other requirements that will fit or not fit or be exempt of the FSMA requirements. So just in general, we're just going to go over the basics. So what I tried to do was separate out what I'm seeing in the field in requirements of FSMA, as well as a certifying body in the GAP, Good Agricultural Practices requirements, and try and bring them together because they do overlap in some areas, and then some are a little bit more specific in one area or the other. All right, so all ag water must be safe and of adequate sanitary quality for its intended use. That's across the board. Identify the risks, and risk assessments are very important throughout not only the farm operation, but with all the certifying body checklist, as well as FSMA, the Food Safety Modernization Act. So identify the risks that are important to microbial safety and the water sources, actions that can be taken. If the ag water identifies some sort of risk, I've heard this called the sanitation survey. So if you hear that term, that might fit into here as well. Water application methods. What kind of irrigation methods do you use on your farm? Is it just drip? Is it just overhead? Is it a combination of both? Practices that limit impacts to the environment, including soil quality, wildlife habitat, runoff, drift, these kind of things. Water testing importance, numerical values on your lab results versus a presence absence. And here in California, we have the Clean Water Act. So we have already been addressing microbial safety in our water. For instance, on my farm, I use not only catchment, rain catchment, but I also have a well that I am sharing with 19 other residents in the area. So it used to be we just get a presence absence result on the test to see if the water is potable or not. We've all moved to the numerical value so that then we can see what sort of risk assessment we need to then apply. And then FDA ag water quality criteria. I have at the end of these slides a number of links, and I encourage you to take a look at that on a regular basis. They also have the option to alert you with any updates or changes automatically to a designated email if you wish. And then recording is necessary to document ag water quality. I find when I'm working with farmers, if they can write down the application date, the harvest date, that will also help them in evaluating the risks. And then later we'll get into GM as geometric mean, and then statistical threshold variations or values. And we'll get into that a little bit. But that again is where we're waiting for the Food Safety Modernization Act to give us more tools to be able to supply them with those answers. So I'm going to address two basic water sections. It's going to be production water and post-harvest water. So while you're irrigating your products versus after they've been harvested and possibly washing them. Here in California, we don't always do that. We'll do exactly a field harvest. So it's straight from the field into a box and maybe into a cooler unit, or just maybe directly to the farmer. Or I'm sorry, the cooler or the buyer. So, okay, so production water includes irrigation, fertigation, which is fertilizer through maybe the drip lines, crop sprays, cooling, frost protection, dust abatement. So the water that you use to keep the dust down on the roads around your farm, that too needs to be microbially safe. And then other uses of the water directly that directly contact the product or produce. So FSMA production water, your water source, is it an open water source, closed water source, or a public supply? I have both. I have a well as well as open catchment, rain catchment. So mine would be the same as a pond or a lake because it's open to the elements. So I need to test it accordingly. Production water, again, application methods. Water that does it come into contact with the harvestable portion of the product? Or the crop. So do you use drip or sprinkler? Water that may avoid direct contact but may have a risk of touching harvestable portions such as a flood or surface. So these are the things you're going to capture in your food safety plan as well. Production water continued, a timing of application. Is it at planting or is it close to harvest? So that if you are able to log this down and record when things were. Let me back up here. I've had a number of farmers that are very good at writing down things, and if one area of information is not available, they were able to go to their logs and records and piece it together in a satisfactory manner. So having the timing of the planting, so when they applied soil amendments, for example, and then when they planted the seed, or when they planted the plugs or the seedlings, and then when they irrigated with which water, or if that matters, as well as when did they start harvesting. These things are very important and have been very helpful during several audits I've been on. Preventing contamination to groundwater and sources. Again, this could be part of a sanitation survey if you need to keep that on record. And what does that entail? It entails inspecting the well to ensure that it's in good condition, the well head. And when I'm saying cracks here, a lot of times they'll have cement around the well head. Is that cement cracked? And in certain circumstances, can something get down that wellhead or down that shaft and then contaminate the aquifer? Land slope, if you were to have a flood or something like that, would that accumulate around the wellhead and then possibly contaminate the aquifer as well? And then do you have backflow devices or even shutoff valves? So in case, say you're irrigating 50 or 100 or 5,000 acres and all of a sudden you lose pressure at one end of the piping, is that going to backflow into your wellhead and down into the aquifer? If you happen to be fertigating at the same time, does that mean also that that is going to go into your wellhead, whatever fertilizer you are using? So this backflow device will help prevent, or shut-off valve will prevent contamination if there's one in the system. Okay, preventing contamination on the surface, such as wastewater or septic tanks or flooding. Here in California, we've had record rain and we're almost out of our drought period. That also means there's been a lot of flooding. Well, what did the water pick up as it was transporting itself from A to B? Did it pick up something from a septic tank? Did it pick up oil? Did it pick up contaminants? And now is that on your growing area? If so, then a soil test might be in order. If it's a small flood or overflow, a ditch or a berm, diverting that from that water getting into your growing area is your most easiest mitigation and corrective action, but certainly not the only one. But these are the sort of things you want to capture in your food safety plan as your not only risk assessments, but corrective action measures that are available to you. And then assist and address runoff risks, again, with your corrective actions, monitor and control animal access to the irrigation. So if you can deter animals from hanging out around the water, including having puddles. I know in our area here, if we leave puddles, the birds come and take a bath and wash, and then before they leave, they lighten the load, and that just creates the possibility of contaminants getting not only exponentially growing in that water, but then if something or someone walks through that and then takes it into the field, that's the consideration that we're looking at and trying to reduce the risk of. So water contact, the less contact with water, the lower the risk. So pathogens may also have a die-off time. So these are the things we consider in our operations as well. And then water contact also includes the uses of, and this is something that I like to remind folks that not only does FSMA ask for this, but your good agricultural practices are going to look for potable water in your hand washing, also on the uses of washing either your surfaces of bins, totes, tools, equipment, aprons, or anything else that may come in contact or cross-contaminate onto the product. So inspecting the ag water sources and the water distribution center or system, water can become contaminated at the source or anywhere in the distribution system or the lines. For instance, our water system here was put in the 70s, and it happened to be whatever they had in the back of the truck that day. So we have Schedule 40, Schedule 60, black rubber hose, these kind of things. Then there's a number of trees along the line that then is all we do is get a good rain, and one of the trees brings up the pipe with the roots as it's falling, and now we've got a contamination in the system. So what are those risks, and how will you be able to address them or reduce that risk if that were to happen? So inspecting your system and then keeping your water source free of debris, trash, domestic animals, and other hazards, including weeds, because that's where the animals can hide out, and then when they do, that's where they poop, and then it's close to your wellhead or the connection, mainline connection, where you then tap in to then do your irrigation on your property. So evaluating your water quality, again, I'm going to repeat that FSMA and FDA are going to give us tools to help us in recording and meeting the requirements of the geometric mean and the STV, the standard threshold variation or values. So I'm just going to skim over this. So please watch the FDA website for any updates and tools that are available. Testing the water is the only way to quantitatively evaluate the microbe quantity or quality of the water system. So the Food Safety Modernization Act is asking for us to test the generic E. coli only. And then I will say, however, buyers are asking for total coliform. So before you get the test done, you might want to check with your buyer and make sure that what it is they are looking for, it's going to save you a lot of time and money in the long run. So that's why I have both the FSMA and the GAP section there for total GAP saying the total coliform and generic E. coli testing as potable water may be asked for by your buyer. So water quality profile can help you to understand the long-term quality of your water source, the appropriate uses of the water source. Is it going to be okay for overhead or drip, for example? And to determine the corrective measures you may need to have either ready or prepared or do during your operations. So water quality criteria for the water used during the growing activities apply to the water used with the direct water application method for the covered produce. Each source of production water must be tested. And then again, I'm going to say these are the numbers that we are giving right now. So watch the website for any changes or updates, but 126 or less colony forming units of generic E. coli per 100 ml water geometric mean, and 410 or less CFUs, colony forming units, of generic E. coli per 100 mLs of water statistical threshold value. There will be tools available, as mentioned before, on the website for us to move forward on this requirement. So test requirements for a public water source, typically you can get this information off of that water agency's website. It's called a CCR, a Consumer Confidence Report, that is required here in California anyhow by June of every year. So having a copy of the previous years from their website will also include the bacterial testing that they do. They are required by the Environmental Health Department and other agencies to have potable water. So you don't need to actually do the testing. You can have that information available during an audit, unless you want to, because remember, if the source is maybe several thousand feet away, there's a potential of contamination between the source and your operation. So again, you want to evaluate that in your risk assessment. And if that is a concern, then perhaps you should test it at your site as well, just for your own confidence level. Groundwater sources, FSMA is asking for 4 or more times or tests during the growing season for a period of 1 year. And then if the microbial activity is low enough, or the risk is low enough, you can then go to a 1-year sampling regime. And then surface water 20 or more times over a 2-year or a 4-year period, with 5 or more samples roll over into the profile every year after the initial survey. Surface water, again, is anything that's open to the elements. So again, my rain catchment is going to be considered an open source or a surface water, as well as ponds, rivers, creeks, etc. The Food Safety Modernization Act produce safety rule requires requirements state that these are minimum requirements. More samples may be helpful throughout the season. Again, that's going to be determined by your risk assessment of your operations. So where do I collect the sample? Surface and ground water representative samples of the appropriate sample appropriate to the water source. Surface, ground, water here, so surface close to the point of intake, groundwater, water source, or wellhead. Again, if you feel that the water source versus the destination point could have a potential contamination factor or risk, you might want to take samples at both points, just for your own information. But then again, following what the Food Safety Modernization Act is requiring overall. Again, municipal drinking water and other public water supplies are not critical, as they have their own requirements to test for. So how do you collect samples? Here in California, our laboratories will provide us with a SOP, standard operating procedure. You can write up your own as well. The use of a sterile bottle is also provided by the laboratory. It will have a white powder in it sometimes, so don't wash that out. That is a neutralizer of the chlorine. If you happen to have chlorine in your system, it will neutralize it so that the lab can get an accurate test of the water and bacterial activity inside it. And then in the distribution, allow the water to run for 1 to 5 minutes so that it actually cleans out the maybe the hose bib or what it is you're taking the water sample from, maybe a sprinkler head or something like that, because what we're looking for is a true reading of the water source itself. So what I do is I count to a 100 or about a minute's worth to wait until everything's flushed out before I take the water sample. So let me say that again. And this is part of my SOP is I turn on the water pretty full on. I count to 100 and then I reduce the water flow. Then I remove the protective seal off of the water bottle. I open the water bottle and don't touch the inside of the cap or inside of the bottle itself, but rather sweep the bottle under the water flow until it fills it up to the 100 ml mark. Take it out of the water flow, cover the cap, and then I put it into a cooler with blue ice so that it doesn't possibly cross-contaminate, and then I take it to the lab. Here in California, and I believe this is consistent with the AOAC approved laboratories, is you need to get that sample to them within 2 hours for them to give you an accurate reading. Otherwise, it needs to be on blue ice. So for those folks who need to ship their product or their sample to a lab, contact that lab first ahead of time and make sure that you can follow the procedures that they require so that you can get an accurate test result. So speaking of which, where do you go for a test? AOAC approved or ISO 17, I'm sorry, that should be 1705 accredited laboratory to do your testing. And then this is where we're waiting for the FDA to give us a little bit more information because they're asking for an MTEC or a 1603 test, which MTEC is a membrane test, and not all labs are outfitted or able to provide this service yet at this time. So I believe that we will hear more as that information becomes available. And then if shipping is required, be sure that you speak with the laboratory on how to properly ship that sample to them in a timely manner. Corrective measures. FSMA allows 3 basic types. Apply a time interval to the microbial die-off, which is a rate of 0.5 log per day between last application and harvest. So this is where writing down when you irrigated and when you harvested, it becomes very important. Between harvest and end of storage and or removal during activities such as commercial washing. Again, write down your process and how it was harvested or when it was harvested and stored, etc. Reinspect the water system. Again, that's going to be your sanitary survey, which includes was there any flooding, was there any contaminants, maybe a barrel of something fell over or somebody dropped something off and it spilled. Was there animal activity maybe or anything like that around your water source? And then treat the water. EPA approved chemicals registered and labeled for the intended use. Non-chemical treatments such as filters, UV lights, and ozonator units are allowed under FSMA. And avoid treatments that may have negative environment or soil quality impacts. Always consider those things, please. And then keep records on your treatments. When, where, what, how much, who, exactly what the full process was, so that even 6 months from now you can go back and have full amount of information to give you a full picture of what measures were taken. Corrective actions based on good agricultural practices. Produce can be contacted by water due to several different reasons or events, such as broken emitters or drip lanes having a hole in it, and then under the pressure spraying up onto the edible portion of the product, or human mistakes. Things happen. So the best thing to do in a situation where there's human error is training, and just takes just a few minutes, go through and explain, here's what happened and here's why we don't want it to happen because of the consequences down the line or in the food chain. Post-harvest water uses could include, but not be limited to, rinsing and washing, commodity movement, such as tanks or flumes like we see here in this picture, cooling, ice making, post-harvest fungicides, and hand washing. I'm sorry, I have another mistake in my slide here. And then cleaning and sanitizing. So post-harvest water management, water quality at the start of use. You want to make sure that it is of good quality and low or no microbial activity, less than 1 is preferred. Water management strategies such as water treatment used to reduce cross-contamination risks by the water. Antimicrobial products, including sanitizers. And adding a sanitizer to the water is not intended to wash the product, but rather to reduce the risk of cross-contamination. So if you're washing peppers and one pepper happens to have some bacteria on it, you don't want it to contaminate everything that's in the tank. It's not necessarily going to wash the product itself. It's just going to reduce the cross-contamination factors. The products that you use as antimicrobial products or sanitizers must be labeled and intended use for the contact of fresh fruits or vegetables. And many are available, including organic options. One that we use here in California often is parasitic acid and hydrogen peroxide. There are a couple of products that have been very available for us to use and certified by organic certifiers already. Single pass water versus and or in conjunction with recycled or batch water. Again, no detectable generic E. coli in a 100 ml sample. Treatment is not required but can be used to maintain quality and reduce cross-contamination risks. Any antimicrobial product, including sanitizers used, must be labeled and specifically designated for the use on fruits and vegetables. Batch water, meaning something that you're washing several products in and using the same water again, needs to have some sort of a timely interval where it is changed and washed out and then new water used. Here in California, we use the turbidity. Once it starts looking cloudy, then but it may still have the appropriate either free chlorine or parasitic acid levels. We still wash it out and then put in new clean water so that it's not cloudy. And then disposal and of this water, again, check your state and local requirements on this. Where is that water being discharged to? Is it being done appropriately and in a manner that's not going to affect the environment? Okay, so choosing an antimicrobial product, including sanitizers, again, must be labeled and used for the contact of fresh fruits and vegetables. here in California, we always say the label is the law. Everything you need to know should be on that label. And what I do with not only my farm, but with my clients is I'll print that label out and make sure that there is a fresh copy of it, either in the office or in my food safety binder, because inevitably over time, that one little piece of information that I needed on the label got scraped off or covered or marked with a pen, and I can't read how many either tablespoons per gallon or something like that I need. So then I have a fresh copy readily available to refer to for those details. And then monitoring, making sure that there is either enough free chlorine or parasitic acid or whatever my sanitizer or antimicrobial product is available in the water for this task. So examples of an SOP, standard operating procedure. Again, it's a say what you do what you say. Describe the activities being done on the farm. Share these SOPs with your workers during maybe a tailgate training. It only takes a few minutes, and you can straight from the SOP read to them what your policy is and then answer any questions that they have right there. Also include corrective actions or what the root cause of a failure may be, and then how to correct that. And then I would write that down. Who found it? What was it? Was it a physical, chemical, or biological hazard? How was it mitigated? When was it mitigated? How was it corrected, et cetera, et cetera. So, and then record keeping, very important. What I do here on my farm is I will go and do my work, and then I come up to the garage actually, and I write down, well, what did I just do? So that I don't forget. And that helps document all your water management activities, verification that the operation is working properly, and it identifies patterns so that you can then forecast whatever changes you may need to make or corrections in the future. Storage of documents. I love this picture. Make sure that your documents are easily accessible, stored safely for 2 years. The only addition I would say to that is some of your agencies may require you to hold onto them longer. So either your state and local regulations or your certifying bodies or your organic certifier may want you to hold on to your documents for maybe as long as 5 years. So FSMA is 2 years. Make sure that your other agencies' timelines are addressed here as well. And then annual review and updates of your policies and practices. What worked last year? What didn't work last year? How are we going to change or update our operations next year? And how will those changes affect our food safety plan and our requirements here? A simple, easy one would be, say, packaging. What kind of packaging are we going to change? How does that affect how we harvest and how we package and then send out to the buyer? Here is a list of resources. Jeff was good enough to condense the long ones into short links here in the gray. They're both the same, get you to the same place, but one's a little bit easier to access than another. I encourage you to take a look at those. I know we're all busy, but these resources have been very helpful in the past, and I see them being helpful in the future as well. Produce Safety Alliance at Cornell is going to have grower trainings available that will help growers satisfy the requirement of having one person on the farm trained according to the FDA and FSMA requirements. Let's see, what else do we have here? This here, Chico, CSU Chico, they have received a grant to put together, it's called Easy GAP. They also have a number of videos on these different areas, including water and water sampling requirements, and an Excel spreadsheet that will help you with the geometric mean and standard STV. Along with the help of FDA, they've put this together. Might be an added resource besides the Wallace Center and all of the great information that they have available for us on their website. I too am available for questions. Here is my contact information. I can provide services throughout the process, even if it's just a couple questions, to complete workshops for, say, a group GAP situation where folks are growing the same basic kind of commodities. We get everybody together. I actually put together a template food safety plan that then we modify or update or change to meet the specifics of each individual grower. But we can start with one basic template to then speed the process up. And one more slide here, I think. I want to thank Kaley for putting this together, and for Jeff for your support and assistance. And I thank you very much for attending this webinar.
Yeah, thank you. This is an excellent presentation. This is our question and answer section. There is one question already typed in, but remember, use the questions box to type in your questions for Kathy. Sarah asks, what do you do to lessen the impact of birds drinking and pooping in your open water?
So the best thing that we have found here is to keep the water from standing for very long. I know it's impossible, but at some point, but if the water is there for more than a couple of hours, or looks like it's going to be there for more than a couple of hours, then digging a ditch or berm to let that water dissipate and then drain off and keep moving, then that's the best way we found to deter frequent visits and consistent activity at a given water source.
Okay. Do you have any tips and tricks that you use for remembering to do your record keeping and training? I don't know if you have others who work at your farm, but training people to do the appropriate record keeping.
Yeah, in the winter is when I do all of my record preparation. So I make sure that I have, say, enough copies, everything I'm going to need for the next 6 months or a year. I have a little bit of a slow season in the winter, so that's when I get prepared and get everything ready. And I do have a couple of workers, and we do a quick hygiene, symptoms of foodborne illness, and basic good agricultural practices workshop. Then, you know what else? A trick that I've found is because we'll all be doing something different on the farm, and we are not actually working side by side. So communication link for us here on my farm, anyhow, that works really well is my to-do list. Because remember, in food safety, if it wasn't written down, it didn't happen. So if I write down on a to-do list with a little checkbox, you know, the lavender field needs to be weeded. Please do that, and trim back something. Then to the left of that, either myself or one of my workers can say, oh, I did that, and I initial it and date it as being done. Well, it's written down now. So that works sufficiently. Writing things down doesn't have to be on a formal document. It could be in a notebook. It could be on your iPhone. I even email myself reminders, because then it has a time and date stamp on it. And I can literally print those out and make it part of my food safety plan and show during an audit that this happened on this date at this time. So that's proven to be very helpful on our farm.
Good. Okay. Someone has noticed that there's some farmer fear around water testing in particular. There are lots of unfamiliar terms and these sorts of things. Any techniques in reducing that fear or feeling of unfamiliarity?
Good question. And so what I'm trying to think is what would be a good answer for everyone across the U.S. So when you turn in a sample to the lab on the chain of custody, there is an option for you to just, for your information, have this test done. It's not an actual official test, and it's just for your own information. You're more than welcome to do that anytime on your own, just for your own information. Because FSMA is a preventive, not a reactive mechanism or list of questions. And the interest is, what am I trying to say? What I'm trying to say is we're trying to fix the system. We're not trying to be a gotcha. So if there is a problem, okay, great, we know what it is, let's fix it now. So you can do a test as to like a litmus test. What does my water have in it? And this is just for my own information. Okay, so it does have a little bacteria. So what can I do to reduce that? And meanwhile, I'm not going to put it on the product so that it can possibly get into the food chain, but rather I'm going to fix that and then make sure that it doesn't get onto the product and into the food chain. So again, wintertime, right after the threat of floods, is what has been the, historically anyhow, the best time to take a water sample, because if there was a flood, that's a high risk. And if there is bacteria in your water system, that's where it's going to show up. Another good time to test your water is in August or September, when you've maybe not had rains for 2 or 3 months and you've been drawing from your water source and it's been either exposed to the elements or maybe your aquifer is being drained off. What bacteria might be there or stirred up under those conditions? And so taking tests 4 times a year is going to give you that baseline of information. I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, no, that was good. Karen asks, does FSMA require a chain of custody for water testing?
FSMA may not, but the lab does. In order for them to be ISO certified or AOAC certified, they have to have a chain of custody. And in fact, buyers have asked, especially on tests that have come back with bacteria counts or high bacteria counts, they ask, well, who took the water sample? Are they properly trained? And that chain of custody will tell who took that water test, when and where. And then, like for myself anyhow, I'm a distribution operator level 1 here with the state of California. I have a certificate where I've not only taken a state test, but I take continuing education every year to maintain my certificate. So then when I take that water sample, I can show them, yes, I am a certified distribution operator and I have been trained properly for this test to be taken. Check with not only maybe your buyer, but with the lab or your local laws and regulations as to who is a qualified person to take that water test, if that becomes a question.
Okay, good. Sarah has a couple questions. First is a clarification. Irrigation ponds have to be tested 20 times a year, is that correct?
Over 2 to 4 years, yes.
20 times over 2 to 4 years.
So approximately 10 times a year.
I see.
And the reason why is because they're open to the elements.
Okay. And the next question is, how likely is it that FSMA will be delayed or changed under the current administration?
this is out of my area of expertise, so I will say that disclaimer right off the bat. What I am hearing, though, is since it is a law, it will continue as the law is written, but that inspections and audits may be limited. But it is a law, and it will be moving forward in that respect.
Okay, yeah, okay, good. If a well is potable and checked by the health department to have no E. coli, is that test adequate for groundwater, or do you still need to do a count?
No, that is accurate. That is adequate. Just make sure you have a copy of that as part of your food safety plan records.
Okay.
The only reason, well, not the only reason. In addition to that, if you feel that between the source where the test was taken and where you're actually applying the water has the potential of contamination, then you may decide to be proactive and take a test at the destination point to coincide with the source test results as well.
Mm-hmm. Nothing in between. Good. Are there required tests for heavy metals such as lead for food safety?
Great question, and not at this time. But if you feel that that's an issue, and especially if you are drinking that water, then I would highly recommend you research that further.
Mm-hmm. So interesting. Okay, those are the questions we have queued. I'll give you another. Oh, excellent. Nice job. We just got another one. Good. This question is about gray water. Specifically, Kaley has some growers that have built simple portable hand washing stations that capture water in a 5-gallon bucket, and then they wonder, where can they dump that bucket of gray water? Can they put it on gravel on a gravel parking lot to control dust?
Excellent question. Excellent question indeed. So gray water discharge is going to be a local laws and regulation requirement right off the bat. So depending on your county and or your state and what that entails, that would be the ultimate answer. The next answer would be is, as long as that water is not puddling somewhere that you can walk through it and then transfer it from your shoes to your pants to the plant product, for example, then you should be able to discharge it, especially if it's a small amount, into a gravel area so that then it can dry out, or somewhere where it's not going to hurt the environment or get onto the product. And I know that's a very broad answer and it's not giving you specific ideas. But if it is contaminated or if it is bad, the ultimate would be putting it into maybe a septic tank system somewhere. But if it's under the laws and regulations of the area, able to be just discharged into an area that can then evaporate, then that's fine too. That's a great question, and it's going to be very dependent on a number of variables, including what the local laws and regulations are.
And here's an example of where every farm is different, because it might depend on the slope of the land. Is it likely to run off into a field or not? Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly.
Is there? Kaley wants to follow up on the gray water question. Are there any specific FSMA requirements for handling gray water, or is it more risk-based?
The specifics is that it doesn't touch the product. So under FSMA, what they're looking for, again, they're looking for the culture of food safety. So whatever it is you do with that gray water, doing it in a manner that is a low risk of getting that gray water onto the product that's going into the food chain. Does that make sense? So you have to kind of like I tell my students at the Hartnell where I teach is you have to become kind of like a CSI person. Okay, so I can't see it right now, but what's it going to do down the line? Or what did it do? How did it get to this point? And then how can I prevent it from getting onto the product?
It seems like there's some science, and then there's a bit of an art to it as well, and being creative for solutions and understanding what will become of this water once it's dumped. Good. All right. Well, I will look up from my notes one last time, but let me start to conclude. I did want to let you know that specifically if you're in the Western SARE area, there is a component of the ALBA grant where there can be some one-on-one appointments with Kaley from ALBA as well. And there in the post-webinar survey, there is a question for you if you'd like to follow up on that. Okay, here is the schedule for the entire webinar series. This is the second, so this is water requirements. Coming up, food safety certification options. There are several certification options, and it's key to pick the one that's right for you, which involves one that is easily accessible and doable, as well as one that is accepted by the buyers you're interested in selling to. In May, we'll talk about a quality management system, which is sort of it's basically the fancy way of saying a farm food safety system, but it can be used in many different domains, including in a group GAP system. And finally, we'll talk about equipment sanitation. Please direct anyone who you think might have wanted to have watched this webinar to our website. We did record this. We are at ngfn.org. The webinars, if you add /webinars, you'll see right at the top, there's a link to this series, and then we'll have all of these recordings as well as slides from the presentations available there. We've done over 60 webinars. They are organized by topic, so feel free to dig into archives as well. Note, don't feel like you have to attend all of these sessions, the series, but do attend everyone that is relevant to you. Your one registration signs you up for all of them. Okay, the National Good Food Network, it has our website, ngfn.org. We're on YouTube. You can always feel free to contact us. We're at Twitter, and we'd love to be in contact with you. So thank you again for attending this webinar. Again, there is a post-webinar survey that should pop up right after the webinar ends. Have a great morning or afternoon, depending upon which time zone you're in. All right, take care all. Thank you again, Kathy.